Welcome to Module 2 of Phase 2 of Pen to Profit. Today we're going to do something very different than we did on the other modules. So far, I have shown you a few principles for copywriting, and I have also shown you a few structures you can use to write copy and how you can come up with the little pieces of copy that you plug and play into those structures. Now, what I wanted to show you in this specific module is everything that happens behind the scenes. It's everything that happens inside people's heads that lead them to take decisions. I want to show you how people think, because if you can understand how people think, you can understand how people take decisions. And if you can understand how people take decisions, you can understand how you can influence those decisions to your advantage, to the product that you want to sell. And in order for me to show you these principles and these concepts, I have something here. I have brought my iPad and I'm going to do some basic drawings just so you understand what we're talking about here. This example that I'm going to give you, I have taken from a book called Liminal Thinking. It's from Dave Gray. It's a great book. I recommend you read it. So I want to start this with the elephant analogy. The elephant analogy is a very old analogy, but it's a very good one. And I'm not going to draw the elephant here because I'm not that good of a drawer, but you can understand the analogy either way. And then afterwards, I'm going to draw a few things here. But the elephant analogy is basically an analogy where there was an elephant and there was a bunch of blind people in one specific community. And then they bring the elephant in and they bring a bunch of blind people around the elephant and they ask them, what are you touching? So one is touching the tail, one's touching the belly, one's touching the ears, one's touching the legs. And each one of them are saying different things. The one touching the tail says, oh, this is a snake. The one touching the belly says, oh, this is a wall. The ones touching the ear say, oh, it is a fan. So every single one, they have a different answer to it. And the analogy here is that the elephant is reality, and every single person, they are somewhat blind to reality. They see only what's in front of them, and they see their own reality. And it's not that they are wrong, it's just that their view is limited. But the important point here is that every single person sees reality differently. So you might think everyone sees reality as you do, and that's a very big misconception most copywriters have. So if you want to write good copy, you need to be able to see the world from other people's perspective, and then from there, take this perspective they have and show them the view that you have from your perspective. But it's very important that you understand their perspective first. And now I'm going to start drawing so I can explain this a little bit better to you. In this word, we have the ground, and let's call the ground reality. This is reality, and the ground is reality, and everything that happens here is the truth, is the absolute truth, but no one can see entirely what's happening here. Why is that? Because every single one of us, we have different experiences. So we have kind of like this ladder that goes like this, where the first degree are our experiences and observations that we live through our entire life. Ever since we're very young, we have different experiences, and based on different experiences, we are shaped differently as people. And as a person, you're going to have different beliefs, different conclusions based on the different experiences you have. So based on those experiences, as I said, you're going to have assumptions. From those assumptions, you're going to draw conclusions. And from those conclusions, you're going to finally drive your beliefs. Those beliefs are the things that guide your life, they guide your decisions, and they guide everything you think and how you view the world. Everything is based on the beliefs you have. So basically what we have in here is we sit on top of this pyramid. This is you. This is me as well. This is all of us, right? We sit on top of this pyramid that is built on beliefs, conclusions, assumptions, and experiences. And we think that this ground that we stand on here is reality. While that's not true, this is not reality. That's how we see reality based on the beliefs, the conclusions, the assumptions, the experiences we have. And the reality is everything below that. But we don't see it that way. We don't have the full picture of reality. So we just see it that way with our beliefs, with our own conclusions, with our own experiences and assumptions. So we have a very specific lenses through which we see the world. And why this is important? Because here, surrounding yourself, you create this bubble. And this bubble, it's what is called self-sealing logic. So we have here self-sealing logic. I'm going to explain why it's self-sealing in a minute, but everything that's inside this bubble, it's what you call the obvious. It's what you call your reality. So everything I have here is obvious, to you. And if something inside here, you consider that as truth. That's very important because it means that everything that's outside of it, you don't necessarily consider it truth, or you flat out consider it a false assumption, a false fact, something that's not true, that is not grounded to reality. Because this, inside the circle, is where your reality lives. And then the reason this is called self-sealing logic is because the way we test things from the outside is that, does it match my experiences? Does it match my beliefs? Does it match my conclusions? Does it match my assumptions? If it doesn't, we don't accept it. We don't accept that claim. We don't accept that theory. We don't accept that fact. We just dismiss it. It doesn't get into the bubble. If I want to convince them that the best diet's the every other day protocol, as I said on the last phase, I need to start that chain of beliefs. I need to start creating that chain of beliefs into them from the very position they are currently in. I cannot say this is the best diet because this, and that, if they don't believe in this, and that. I have to start with an assumption, with a belief they already have. I have to meet them where they are. So what we have to do here basically is understand that every single person sits on very different beliefs, on very different conclusions, and very different assumptions, and they all have very different realities. If you take this bubble from someone who is left-winged, it's gonna be a very, very different bubble from someone who is right-winged. If you take this bubble for someone who is an engineer, it's gonna be very, very different from a bubble for someone who is a biologist or an architect or an artist. Those are very different worldviews, and they change the way people think, and they change the way people take decisions. So what I wanted to understand is that what we're gonna do next on the next few modules, it's figure out what are people's beliefs, what are people's conclusions, what are people's assumptions, and what are people's experiences are, in order for us to start communicating with them right here. So it goes back to the example that I gave you on the last episode, where I said that I see myself more as a prosecutor trying to prove a case than a writer, because as a prosecutor trying to prove a case, I need to figure out what are the chain of beliefs that people need to go through, that they need to accept in order for them to accept my reality, my solution, and everything else that I want to sell them. And what are the hoops that they need to jump through one by one in order to get to that conclusion. And the important fact here is that you cannot miss steps. You cannot just skip steps here along the way. You need to go one by one, and more importantly, you need to start with those beliefs exactly where they are right now. So I need to figure out what are their main beliefs right now in order for me to be able to implement all those small beliefs one by one until they believe that my solution is what they need. And in order for them to achieve that solution, the only possible option for them is to buy my product. So this is all very conceptual, but it will all make sense in a minute. All you need to understand here is that in order for us to write highly effective copy, we need to understand the pyramid of beliefs, conclusions, assumptions, and experiences people have before we can start writing copy properly to them, and in order to match them exactly where they are and lead them to the place we want to lead them to. Cool? So as a copywriter, we have a few steps we need to go over here in order for us to communicate properly with people and be able to lead them to the conclusions that we want them to get to. The first step to do that is we need to understand their current pyramid of beliefs, how this is formed and what are the beliefs they currently hold and how they currently see reality through those beliefs. That's the first step. The second step here is that we need to meet them where they are in terms of their beliefs, where they are sitting here, the place this pyramid is sitting. This is where we need to meet them. That's why we need to lead all of our copy with beliefs they already have first, to then start implementing little beliefs one by one in order to get to the point that we want them to get. Because if we lead with beliefs that they don't have yet, our beliefs, our claims, everything we say, our message is just gonna get deflected here. And we want the message to get through the self-sealing logic circle. And in order for us to do that, we need to lead with the beliefs they already have here. So it's very important for us to figure out what those beliefs are in the first place. A good copywriter doesn't give people conclusions. It doesn't get them the conclusions just handed to them. A good copywriter lets people get to the conclusions on their own so that they believe that from the first moment, getting to this conclusion was their idea. We just plant the seeds here inside their heads, inside their reality, and we let those seeds do the work for us. And then we're gonna lead these people to have the conclusions that we want them to have by starting with the beliefs they already have. So that's what we're doing here. And in order to do that, later on, I'm gonna show a pattern of communication that you can use in order to get your message through the self-sealing logic circle, in order for your message to be accepted by the person who is receiving this message, by your audience, by your reader. And then from there, how you can use that to pivot to your specific advantage points, to your specific beliefs that you want to implement and that you want to sit inside people's head. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that through one specific pattern of communication. So that's what we're doing here. Before I show you this pattern of communication, we need to figure out what those beliefs are in the first place, so we know how to match them and know how to guide people. And that's what we're going to do next.